Let me give you 4 key words to be aware of that will help you in putting together a conscious awareness program of developing a source of communication, making these deposits. See, when you talk, you want a verbal check that'll cash. When you speak, you want to speak from something that's there, an awareness that's there, a feeling that's there. And to create this foundation or this reservoir or this deposit or this account from which you can talk, let me give you 4 words that will help you to do that. Here's the first one. Develop an interest. The first word is interest. Develop an interest in 2 primary things, life and people. If you're interested in life, see, right away, daily, weekly, monthly, you're going to be gathering up information and impressions and awareness, more so than someone who is not that interested. Most people want to make it, but they don't have that interest, that keen interest in what's going on around them. So the 2 things to be interested in is life and people. Make a study of those. Make sure you're entering something in your journal constantly about life and about people, business life and social life, what's happening around you. It's called gathering so that you can use it for future conversations. Now you do this deliberately by using these 4 words and thinking about them. What I like to always do is develop a mental tick list, things to remember as you proceed through the day. Now, at first, when you develop a little mental tick list of things to remember, sometimes it's a little awkward, right? It's like learning to play the piano. My teacher said, here's the right-hand scales. So I got those, no problem. Then my teacher says, now we're going to run the left-hand scales. I got those, no problem. Then I remember the day when she said, we're going to play both hands together. I thought, now that'll be tricky, right? How could you do them both together? And I remember looking at one, looking at the other, but finally, right, I got to where I could play both hands together. Then I remember the day she said, now, we're going to read the music, play both hands. I thought, wow, how would you do that, right? And I'm looking at the music, looking at my hands, right? But finally I got that going. Then I remember the day she said, now, we're going to watch the audience, play the music, read the music, play both hands. I thought, now, how could you possibly do that? Right? But sure enough, I finally got to where I could watch the audience, read the music, and play both hands. Right? After a while. At first, it was a little awkward, but after a while, I finally got those, right, 4 things in line. So, here's what I want to give you. It's a little mental tick list to remember. And at first, it may seem a little awkward to try to remember these 4 things in gathering information for future conversations, communication. But just try. And then finally, it'll come naturally. So the first word is interest. Be interested enough to find ideas to put in your journal. Be interested enough to look around. Keep your eyes open. What's going on? Be alert. Don't miss anything. Okay, here's the second word for good communication. Developing this reservoir. And that is fascination. Fascination goes a little bit beyond interest. Fascination means you take a second look. Fascination means you're just not interested in just surface information. You want to know what's behind it. What does it really mean? So if you really want to develop this reservoir of information for future conversations, you've got to be fascinated with life, fascinated with stories, fascinated with human behavior. Why do people act like they act? Why do they do what they do? Now also be interested and fascinated with your own life. How come I act like I act? Why do I always do this? Why do I feel this way? See, that kind of fascination will start helping you to gather up the information for good communication. Fascinated. Here's the third word, and this is a good one. Sensitivity. Develop a sensitivity to life and people. Let what's happening during the day touch you. Let it affect you. Develop a sensitivity to both tragedy and success, both the highs and the lows of life. a sensitivity to people's feelings, a sensitivity to the complexity of life as well as the simplicity of life. How people are different and yet so much the same. Sensitivity to people's beliefs, the way they look at things. Here's a good phrase: let life touch you. Don't let it kill you, but let it touch you. Be sensitive. When Judy and I were married, I'll never forget, we got back from Europe. One time we were staying at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. It was about Christmas time. I don't know, the 20th of December, something like that. And we decided to rent a car and drive out to Long Island. Judy had never been to Long Island. Judy was raised in the Midwest, farm country too. And on the way out to Long Island, Judy had never been to Harlem. So we left the hotel, and not very far away from the Waldorf Astoria is Harlem. I will never forget the look on Judy's face as we drove through Harlem. Incredible. It was the 20th of December, but in Harlem there was not one sign of Christmas. There was not one light, Christmas light. There was not one Christmas tree. There was not one wreath on any door. There was not one strand of tinsel. And yet a few blocks away on Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue in New York and Rockefeller Center, there's the big blazing Christmas tree, and the ice skaters are skating, and the chestnuts are roasting, and right, the shops are full of clothes, and the shoppers are shopping, and there's this feeling of wealth and affluence. And a few blocks away is Harlem. Incredible. Judy talked about that experience for a long time after that, the impact it made on Harlem, and the incredible contrast in people's lives, from the wealthy to the poor, from the advantaged to the disadvantaged. It really affected her. But see, you want to be affected by life. Let it touch you. Let it reach you. When I lived in Northern California, 2 or 3 times a year, I would go to San Francisco, the Tenderloin district. Down at what's known as the bottom of the world. Just go spend a day and see what it's like on the other side of life. Walk the streets where the lonely walk and talk to them. Find out their stories. Go eat where they eat. Visit with them for a while. It's an incredible experience. Because I was raised fairly well, I've never had any tragedy in my life, so I really don't know what it's like. But it's good to have a view and a look. You don't have to go live in poverty, but you got to be aware of it. You got to know about it. You got to be sensitive to it. Man, I got to know there Frank. Frank runs a bar in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. What an incredible place. You wouldn't believe it. Frank sees more tragedy in a week than most people see in a lifetime. I'm visiting with him there one day. He said, Jim, see that lady sitting over there at the bar? I said, yes. He said, that's Cookie. He said, how old do you think she is? I said, I don't know. She looks about 45. He said, she's 25. I said, wow. Cookie used to be a go-go dancer. And she developed some kind of bone disease and had all these operations. Now she's got the bolts and the pins and so on trying to hold her together, and she can hardly walk. And he said, Cookie comes in here 3 or 4 times a week and sits right there. And she's also got a little boy, 5 years old. He's dying of leukemia. And said, Cookie comes here and drinks till she can't drink anymore. And usually I have to call a cab and have somebody come take her home. Cookie. The story really got to me. I used to go by after that every once in a while and put some money in an envelope and her name on it and leave it for her to come by and get. The story got me. But that's Frank, Cookie, the Tenderloin, the other side of life, where the difficulties are. We've all got to be sensitive to that. We've got to let it affect us. As you let all of life affect you, so it affects your conversation. so it affects your communication. So people have this incredible sense that there's a great deal about you and your sensitivity and your interest and your fascination with life that makes life uniquely worthwhile for you. And I'll tell you what, it'll show up in your conversation. It'll show up in your feelings. It'll show up in your ability to reach people. Sensitivity. Don't be afraid of it. Use it. Develop it. Now here's the fourth word, knowledge. Develop a working knowledge. I've added one more word there, working knowledge of life and people. A working knowledge means a systematic way of gathering up all the information that comes your way. And try to put it into some workable form. That's why we suggest a journal. You just got to have a daily journal to record the ideas and the impressions and the feelings and the things that come your way, so that you'll have this working knowledge, this depth of awareness. Now, if you'll work on those 4 words and be consciously aware that you're working on knowledge, sensitivity, fascination, and interest about life and people in a deliberate way, a daily way, a consistent way, so that when you get ready to talk, there'll be all this substance there waiting to back up whatever you have to say. Here's a good phrase. Let what you say be the tip of the iceberg of all you know and all that you feel and all that you're aware of. Let what you say only be a small portion of all you know and feel. I'm sure we've all had experiences talking with some people, and sure enough, they said far more than they knew. Very quickly.